Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. This is Erik and Derek, Tiger Football Talk. We are two Clemson grads who love nothing more than to talk a little more about Clemson football each week. And obviously, there's no Clemson football going on right now. The last football game we have for the foreseeable future is going to be the Super Bowl, and then we have the spring game in a few months. So we've already done our look back video on 2020, and now we're going to kind of look ahead based on, National Signing Day that just came through and happened. So we want to look at the recruits that we signed this year, and we're going to do a deep dive on every single one of them and talk about why the Clemson fans should be excited about each and every single one of these players. So before we dive into each one specifically, Erik, can you give us like a brief overview of this class?
Yeah, super excited for the 2021 recruiting class. It's always nice to see these guys coming out of high school and seeing how they're going to fit into our Clemson program. This class is a good one of Dabo's best. Nationally ranked number 5, number 1 in the ACC. We got 19 recruits to go over, and we're excited to talk about each and every one of them and what they are going to bring to this team. So, Derek, why don't you start us off and let's start breaking them down.
Yeah, and like a little disclaimer first, like we're not recruiting analysts. Like we both have full-time jobs. We love Clemson football, so we want to talk about it. So we're here to talk about it today as fans. We're using 247 Sports when we're listing out, they're the number 1, blah, blah, or number 5 overall. Like there's so many different sports networks between Rivals and ESPN. So just so everyone understands, we're using 247 Sports today. And so all the metrics we're using is based off that. But you really can't talk about the recruiting class without starting out with a bang, and that's with the number 1 overall recruit that we have in our class, and that's Will Shipley. He's out of Charlotte, North Carolina, a 5-star running back, the number 1 overall running back, number 1 player out of the state of North Carolina. He's the 30th overall player in the entire country. He's 5'11", but carries good weight at 200 pounds. And one of the things I love is that he's already enrolled. He enrolled in January. So Erik, break it down a little bit for us, and also give us one word that you attribute to Will Shipley.
My one word for Will Shipley is Christian McCaffrey. This dude just reminds me so much of Christian McCaffrey, and we see Christian McCaffrey now at the Panthers and what he's been doing at the next level of the NFL. I mean, going back to 24/7 Sports, his player comp is Joe Mixon. He runs a sub 4.5 40 speed. He's a 2-sport athlete, track and field. Obviously, with all that speed, he runs the 55-meter dash and 300-meter dash. He's going to be a big... he's the number 1 running back in the class. He's the number 1 running back in the state of North Carolina. It's going to be really exciting to see what he brings to this team. He brings this speed, this breakaway speed, but he's got this patience to let the block set up. Super excited for this guy to start. I hope he gets a ton of playing time at the spring game so we can watch to see what he can do. Derek, what's your one word?
All right, my one word, and I feel like if Will Shipley hears this, he's going to be offended, but I'm going to say accountant. And probably when you're first hearing that, no, I don't want him to be Will the accountant Shipley. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you have to account for this guy on every play. He is a playmaker. So I know you're like, oh my goodness, you just said account for accountant. But also hey, you can't screw up your taxes. If you screw up your taxes in the year, there are significant ramifications. If you do not account for Will Shipley, if you don't know where he is on the field, what position he's lining up on every play, this guy is going to hurt you time and time again. There was not necessarily a player like this in college football last year who has great vision running out of the backfield, but can also run, based on the videos I've seen, a full route tree. So this is a guy that I would say is a good test for our coaching staff because he has to be out in the field. I don't care if you have Lynn J. Dixon or anybody else in the backfield. You've got to find ways of getting Will Shipley on the field and getting the ball in his hands because he's just too talented and is too much of a matchup nightmare to not have on the field.
Yeah, I think your word of accountant and need to account for on the field is kind of interesting because you look back to the 2020 season and that was ETN. ETN was the guy that you had to account for. And he's going in the draft, hopefully first round. Good luck to him in the NFL. But here we go. Next up, that's Clemson's motto. And I think Will Shipley comes into a running back room that Bowman's transferring. We got Lynn J. Dixon, who's a speedy, elusive guy. We've got Malusi, who has a similar speedy elusiveness. Kobe Pace, who was a recruiting class from last year that we didn't get to see a ton of this year, but I'm excited for him. Rencher's coming back for his, 8th season. I don't know how long he's been at Clemson. He just somehow seems to keep coming back. And then Phil Maffa, another guy we'll talk about that's in this 2021 recruiting class. So we have a pretty stacked running back room, but I agree with you, Derek, that Will Shipley needs to see the field, and Tony Elliott needs to find a way to get him going.
Tony Elliott just signed a big extension contract upgrade. Now he's making over $2 million a year with Brent Venables. Brent Venables is one of the best, I think, hands down the best defensive coordinator in the country. If you looked at what he's done for the last 10 years. Tony Elliott is now making that kind of money. If we give you a tool, a player, a toy like this, you have got to figure out ways to get on. You have to earn $2 million a year. It's a good test for Tony Elliott to see what he can do creatively. I don't want to say comparisons to Devontae Smith. Very different players, different positions. Devontae Smith just has otherworldly speed. But what Sarkisian was able to do to get him the ball in space, I think could serve as an outline to how you need to be creative with playmakers in the modern college football world.
Yeah, I agree completely. And the biggest question mark, as always, coming out of high school to college is how does that translate? You know, we've watched a ton of film against him from high school, seeing him break away, seeing him find these holes. Will those holes be there in college? They ran a lot around that edge in high school for him, and he was able to kind of outpace people to that edge and beat them there. Will he have that same kind of success in college? And can Clemson set him up for success in that way? And also, big shout out to CJ Spiller as being signed as the running back coach. Super excited for that and his career. Super excited to have CJ Spiller back on field coaching for Clemson.
Yeah, super excited for that guy. Just one of the greatest Clemson players of all time. But yeah, I'm excited to see Will Shipley in the spring game and just see what he looks like compared to the rest of the athletes on the Clemson roster.
That's our breakdown. If you enjoy our content, help us out, like, subscribe to our channel, add a comment below. We'll be breaking down every single 2020 recruit from the 2021 Clemson class in the near future. So check out the Tiger Football Talk YouTube channel and go Tigers.